Phil Mickelson, six-time major champion, fan favorite, showman. But right now, none of that matters. In June 2026, the golf world was hit by a shockwave. A woman named Ashley Perez finally broke her silence. She had kept quiet for years, but she decided it was time to talk about Phil Mickelson. And what she shared is heartbreaking. Now, Ashley is not a stranger to this sport. She is the ex-wife of Pat Perez. She lived inside the ropes. She knows the lifestyle, the money, and the power these players hold. She says there is a silent rule in professional golf, a rule that makes people afraid to speak up against the stars. She says the players get so much worship that they start to believe they are gods, untouchable. So, when Ashley came forward, people listened. She painted a picture of arrogance that left her feeling humiliated. She described a moment she has carried with her for over a decade, a moment that changed how she saw the game she loved. But here is the catch. She did not share this to destroy Phil. She shared it to give courage to others, to show that silence is not strength. We are going to take you back to that night, to the private setting, to the words that were allegedly spoken, to the moment her world flipped upside down. This is not just gossip. This is a story about power, fear, and a truth that was buried for too long. But before we dive in, I want to ask you something. In your honest opinion, do we give these athletes too much freedom? Do we overlook too much because they win trophies? I want to hear your take in the comments. And if you want to hear the full story, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next part. You asked if we give athletes too much freedom. That question sits at the heart of this story. Because in professional golf, there is a code, a silent, unspoken rule. You do not speak against the stars. You do not expose their private moments. You protect the brand. You protect the money. You protect the legacy. This culture does not happen overnight. It is built slowly. These players are worshipped from the moment they turn professional. They get millions in endorsements. They get private jets. They get memberships at the most exclusive clubs. And somewhere along the way, some of them start believing they are above the rules, above consequences, above respect. Ashley Perez knows this world better than most. She was married to Pat Perez, a well-known figure on the tour. She attended the events. She sat in the galleries. She dined at the same tables. She smiled for the cameras. But behind closed doors, she saw something different. She saw how power can twist a person, how money can create a shield. She has said something that should make every golf fan pause. She said, and I quote, "We give these players so much worship and money that they think they are gods. Not heroes, gods." That is a dangerous line, because when you believe you are a god, you stop seeing other people as equals. You stop thinking about consequences. You stop worrying about boundaries. So when Ashley finally decided to speak, she was not just sharing a story, she was breaking a wall that had protected powerful men for decades. And what she revealed was not about money. It was not about jealousy. It was about something far more personal. Something that happened in a quiet room away from the cameras when nobody was watching. Now, we are about to take you inside that room. But first, you need to understand the woman behind the words. You need to know who Ashley Perez really is and why she carried this burden for so long. Because her silence was not weakness. It was survival. And her decision to speak, that took real courage. But who is the woman behind that courage? That story starts long before that night. Ashley Perez grew up around competition. She understood the pressure of elite sports long before she married into it. When she met Pat Perez, she stepped into a world of private jets, five-star hotels, and exclusive clubhouses. It looked glamorous from the outside, but she quickly realized that the tour was a bubble where players were treated like royalty, and the people around them were expected to stay in line. She was not just a wife in the background. She was sharp. She was observant. She noticed the way some players spoke to waitstaff, the way they demanded special treatment, the way they expected silence from anyone who saw too much. She watched the double standards play out year after year. Male players could do almost anything and still be celebrated. But if a woman spoke up, she was labeled difficult, unstable, a liar. Ashley also saw the loneliness of tour life, the constant travel, the hotel rooms, the hours spent waiting while her husband practiced or played. She was surrounded by people, but she often felt completely alone. And in that loneliness, she learned to read people. She could tell who was genuine and who was putting on an act. She could see the masks that players wore for the cameras. And Phil Mickelson, in her eyes, he wore one of the brightest masks of all. The smiling, humble, family man image that fans adored. But Ashley claims that behind that smile there was something else. something darker. She says she saw an ego that had grown out of control. A man who believed the rules did not apply to him. A man who was used to getting whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted it. Now, you might be thinking, this is just one person's opinion. But Ashley is not a stranger. She is not an outsider making wild accusations. She spent years inside the PGA Tour ecosystem. She dined with these players. She celebrated with them. She knew their wives and their girlfriends. She heard the whispers. She saw the looks. And she kept her mouth shut, because that is what you did. That is what everyone did. She knew the players, the parties, the secrets. But nothing prepared her for what happened next. That night was supposed to be just another evening. It was during the Barclays tournament in 2015. Ashley was there with her husband, Pat. The atmosphere was relaxed. Players and their families were unwinding after a long day on the course. Phil Mickelson was there too. He was a friend, a mentor, someone Pat respected. They sat together and shared bottles of red wine. The conversation flowed easily. Laughter filled the room. For a moment, Ashley felt comfortable. She felt safe. She was among friends. She trusted Phil. She had no reason to feel uneasy. But as the evening went on, something shifted. The wine kept coming. The room grew quieter as people started to drift away. And then, Pat excused himself. He needed to use the restroom. It was a normal, harmless moment. Ashley did not think twice about it. She stayed at the table with Phil, making small talk. That was when everything changed. The smile on Phil's face did not disappear, but his eyes changed. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He started scrolling, almost casually. And then he turned the screen toward her. She saw a picture of Phil, fully nude, completely exposed, his body on full display, and he was flexing, showing off, like he was proud of what he was showing her. Ashley froze. Her mind could not process what she was seeing. This was Phil Mickelson, the legend, the family man, the man who had just been laughing with her husband moments ago. Before she could even react, he spoke. His voice was calm, confident, almost businesslike. He said, "I am going to leave my bedroom door unlocked tonight. When Pat falls asleep, I want you to come to me." The words hung in the air like poison. Ashley could not believe what she had just heard. Was this a joke? Was she dreaming? She looked at his face, searching for any sign that he was kidding, but there was none. He was serious. He actually expected her to say yes. He expected her to sneak away from her husband and come to his room. The wine was flowing, the conversation was easy, and then, in a single moment, everything changed. Ashley felt her stomach drop. Her heart started racing. She was trapped. Her husband was just a few feet away. Phil was sitting right in front of her, staring at her with an arrogance that made her skin crawl. She did not know what to do. If she screamed, she would cause a scene. If she told Pat right then, it would destroy the evening and possibly Pat's career. If she walked away, Phil might follow. So she did the only thing she could do. She sat there, frozen, paralyzed. She mumbled something. She does not even remember what she said. She just needed to escape. She needed to find her husband. She needed to leave that room. She eventually got up and walked away. She found Pat. She did not tell him what happened. She could not. She was too shaken, too humiliated, too scared of what might happen if she spoke. So she buried it. She pushed it deep down and pretended it never happened. But it did happen, and the memory of that moment haunted her for years. The image of Phil's body on that phone screen, the sound of his voice, so sure of himself, the way he looked at her like she was something to be collected, like she owed him something, like she had no choice. That was the moment Ashley realized that the culture of silence was not just about protecting the game. It was about protecting predators. It was about making sure powerful men could do whatever they wanted without facing any consequences. And she was just another woman expected to smile and pretend everything was fine. She walked out of that room with a secret she never asked for. But keeping that secret would cost her more than she ever imagined. For years, Ashley carried that weight. She watched Phil Mickelson continue to be celebrated. She watched him win more tournaments. She watched him smile for the cameras and wave to the crowds. And every time she saw his face, she felt sick. She remembered what he had done. She remembered how small he had made her feel. She told a few close friends over the years, but she never went public. She was terrified. Terrified of the backlash. Terrified of being called a liar. Terrified of being destroyed by Phil's army of lawyers and publicists. She had seen what happened to women who spoke out. They were torn apart. Their reputations were shredded. Their lives were ruined. But something changed in 2026. Ashley looked at the world around her, and realized that the silence was killing her. She could not keep pretending. She could not keep watching powerful men get away with terrible things. She had to speak, not for revenge, not for fame, for herself, and for every other woman who had been silenced. So she went to Scratch. She sat down with reporter Alan Shipnuck, and she told her story. She described that night in excruciating detail. She described Phil's arrogance, his entitlement, the photo, the words, the way he made her feel like an object. She held nothing back. And when the article was published, the golf world exploded. Fans were shocked. Media outlets scrambled to cover the story. Social media went into a frenzy. People could not believe that Phil Mickelson, the beloved legend, had been accused of something so degrading. But Phil was not going to stay quiet. His team fired back immediately. They called the article a drive-by shooting. They said it was based on anonymous sources and innuendo. They admitted that Phil had sent a photo to Ashley, but they claimed it was only topless, not fully nude. They said he had apologized for it years ago, and they strongly denied that he had ever been banned from any golf clubs. She finally spoke, but Phil Mickelson was not going to stay quiet. His lawyers released a statement saying he had never been expelled from any club. They said he left those clubs on his own terms. They also accused Scratch of having a hidden agenda. They pointed out that Phil had left the PGA Tour for LIV Golf, and they suggested that the media was out to get him. But Ashley stood her ground. She did not back down. She said she was telling the truth. She said she had no reason to lie. She said she was not looking for money or attention. She just wanted people to know what kind of man Phil Mickelson really was. And then, Phil's wife Amy entered the picture. Reports surfaced that Amy was standing by her husband. She was supporting him through the allegations. His team praised her for her extraordinary grace and unwavering love. But to many fans, that only made the story more tragic. Amy was being dragged into a scandal that she did not create, and she was expected to smile and defend her husband, just like so many wives before her. The golf world is now divided. Some fans believe Ashley without hesitation. They say she has nothing to gain and everything to lose by coming forward. They say her story is too detailed, too specific, too consistent to be a lie. Others defend Phil. They say he is being unfairly targeted. They say the media is trying to destroy his legacy. They say we should wait for more evidence before passing judgment. But one thing is clear, this story is not going away. Phil has already missed several major tournaments this year. He cited personal and family health issues, but many are now wondering if the allegations are the real reason he is staying away. His absence from the biggest events has only fueled more speculation. Fans are asking, is he hiding? Is he protecting himself? Is his career finally crumbling under the weight of his own actions? And what about the broader message? Ashley Perez has done something that very few women in golf have ever done. She has named a powerful man and accused him of misconduct. She has shattered the silence that has protected so many players for so long. Whether you believe her or not, her decision to speak has already changed the conversation. It has forced fans to look at their heroes differently. It has forced the sport to confront its own dark underbelly. Two stories, two truths, but one question remains. Who do you believe? Do you believe Ashley Perez, a woman who risked everything to share her painful truth? Or do you believe Phil Mickelson, a man who has spent decades building a carefully crafted image? Do we give athletes too much freedom, or do we finally hold them accountable for their actions? That is the question that will linger long after the headlines fade. Phil Mickelson may still be a legend on the course, but off the course, his reputation is now stained, and no amount of birdies or trophies can wash that away. This story is not over. The fallout is just beginning, and as more details emerge, one thing is certain. The culture of silence in professional golf has finally been cracked. Ashley Perez made sure of that. Now I want to ask you directly, do you believe Ashley Perez, or do you think this is an attack on Phil Mickelson? Drop your honest take in the comments. And if you want to stay updated on this story as it unfolds, hit that subscribe button, because the next chapter is coming, and you do not want to miss it.